Morning, good evening, good afternoon. Zimbabwe, for the last 3 weeks, Zimbabwe has been captured by the debate triggered by the war veteran Blessed Geza and his colleagues. We've called for Mnangagwa to resign. While some people have argued that the ordinary people of Zimbabwe should support it for various reasons, others, including myself, have said no. Because the biggest danger here is for this uprising to end up being a repeat of the 2017 uprising, in which the people supported one faction of Zanu PF, and all they ever got was the swapping of one dictator for another. I believe at that time, I believe so now, even more so now, that we should focus our minds on ending this Zanu PF dictatorship. Anything we get involved in, as much as some people may say it will lead to the same goal, we've got to be careful that it doesn't become another halfway house where getting there alone has taken all the momentum and there's nothing, no steam left to dismantle the dictatorship itself. Here is one Zimbabwean whose opinion, who has influenced the opinions of many Zimbabweans, Chikanza, the editor of Zimai, speaking on the same subject. I think it is worth listening to it and debating it.
Of people's various views. My only comment, which was a question really, was if people are concerned about Geza being Zanu PF or being someone who could end up compromising or infiltrating the opposition, if that is the only concern there, the opposition already has been infiltrated by real scammers who have been lying to them openly and publicly that they are not Zanu PF, that they never went to use it through Zanu PF. People like Fadzayi Mahere were way more dangerous and really, really dangerous in that. They are scammers. They're well-known scammers. And with a well-traced background of real bloody violence since the early 2000s, herself and her father, and also the deliberate damaging of other people's lives over the time, well established. And not just that, the brutal assault of the court systems in order to prove a fake point. Getting sponsored by Zanu PF, by Mnangagwa to win a fake and empty defamation case against Mnangagwa's advisor. And just so that you can prove a point, just so that you can scam more people. And the opposition can't see that this person is a dangerous scammer. This is not just a simple scammer. She's actually a way more dangerous scammer in the league of Thokozani Kupe. So if Geza is being resisted simply because he's Zanu PF, and yet the opposition has got someone like Mahere, who they even made their own spokesperson, someone who is 7 times worse than what the Blessed Geza could ever make, then don't you think that people in the opposition are totally disillusioned? On a matter that actually has got nothing to do with either Zanu PF or opposition. This is just a simple case of stopping Mnangagwa. It's not in any way here. It's unlike 2017. In 2017, there was no constitutional violation, like real constitutional violation by Mugabe, or visible, even though it was there. But I'm talking about this one here, which is a twisting of the constitution, so that Mnangagwa can rule forever, become life president. And people are busy talking about infiltration when they're nursing little demons like Fadzayi Mahere. Doesn't that show that people are actually okay with grooming scammers?
Well, I'll stop it there. Well, I will be the first one to admit that the opposition has been heavily infiltrated. I've said on this platform and many others that the opposition has been corrupt, incompetent, and utterly useless. One of the areas where I've criticized the opposition is its failure to implement even one token democratic reform during the 2008 to 2013 GNU. I believe that was the golden opportunity to implement those reforms. And yet, the opposition failed to implement even one. And the reason for it, Robert Mugabe bribed the opposition, and they all but forgot about the reforms. That is the reality. And that is the reality we must admit to ourselves. We cannot pretend that that didn't happen. It happened. More recently, in an interview with HStv, Free Talk, Margaret Dongo highlighted another area where the opposition sold out. The opposition participated in the 2023 elections, like all other elections since 2018, knowing fully well that the process is flawed, knowing fully well that by participating, they'll give Zanu PF legitimacy. In this interview, Margaret Dongo is emphasizing the point that even after SADC and the AU election observers had condemned the 2023 elections as flawed and illegal, the MDC, CCC leaders still went ahead and took up their seats, thus giving Zanu PF legitimacy. Let's hear what she had to say on the occasion.
Politics is not a business. This is what I want to remind most of our MPs and other people.
Do you think they look at it as a business?
Yes, they look at it as a business. Because they look at it as a business seriously. Because the moment they go, business and employment creation, because if they go to parliament, you are employed. You get a car, you get a stable salary, and you are paid until your term is over. Already you are employed. If you are out, you're out of employment.
If you serve 2 terms, you get a pension?
You get a pension. Then already, this is why people kill in politics. They kill to be in parliament. This is why we have violence in this country. Because there is no employment. The only employment which is there is in politics. There is no other outside employment. So for them, a very good example is, look at what happened to CCC, the Triple C party. Have a look. When they lost, when they said they were rigged, what I expected from them, I expected all parliamentarians to say, we are not going to go to participate in a rigged system. And we are not going to sit in a rigged parliament because the elections have been rigged. So all of us were not going to parliament. Imagine what could have happened. We could have gone into new elections. There's no way Zanu PF was going to rule alone.
You think so?
Yes,
Do they care?
caring or not caring, the public would have forced them because the majority of the people would want representation in parliament.
25% off your first shop. Now that we've got your attention.
Sorry about that. But that point cannot be denied. The opposition participated in those flawed elections, knowing fully well that the process is flawed, knowing fully well that by participating, they'll give Zanu PF legitimacy. And by going ahead and accepting taking up their seats, even after SADC and the AU had condemned the process, they left SADC with no option but to give Zanu PF legitimacy. This has been at the heart of Zimbabwe's failed political system. We have known all along that the process is flawed. We have known all along that by participating and giving Zanu PF legitimacy. And yet they've continued to participate out of greed. So on that score, I totally agree with Simba Chikanza when he talks about the opposition being infiltrated. That is very true. But what we should not lose sight here is that our friend, Blessed Geza and his colleagues are interested and not interested in changing Zimbabwe's failed political system. They're interested in making sure that we replace the Zanu PF dictator, the current one, with one of their own choosing. We should not forget that Blessed Geza and his fellow war veterans have played their part ever since the country's independence in creating and imposing the Zanu PF dictatorship that has ruled the country with an iron fist these last 45 years. In 2017, the number one priority, in my view, was to dismantle the Zanu PF dictatorship. When the Lacoste faction in Zanu PF offered the people to remove Mugabe, people became obsessed with Mugabe must go. And they failed to realize that what Chikanza, Mnangagwa and company were proposing is that yes, we will remove Mugabe, but replace him with Mnangagwa. We managed to swap one dictator for another. That changed nothing. This is why we are in this, still stuck in this political and economic situation. I do not believe, in fact, I know, he has said it himself. Blessed Geza has made it very clear that it is time for Chikanza to rule the country. Mnangagwa has since given up his idea of trying to corrupt the constitution. The original argument was he was doing such a splendid job in reviving the country's economy. The country was heading for economic miracles. Zimbabwe was to become an upper middle income nation by 2030, in 5 years' time. But the evidence on the ground clearly shows that that is a lie. And I think the penny has finally dropped, even among his most ardent supporters, that they can never sell that idea to anyone. And as years go by, the economic meltdown gets worse and worse. It will become more and more clear that Vision 2030 is a lie. So Mnangagwa has since dropped the whole idea. And now we are faced with Geza and company, who are no doubt reassessing their own position to try to establish whether their candidate is going to be the Zanu PF candidate for 2028. But let me reassure you, if Chiwenga was the Zanu PF candidate, we can be certain of one thing. Geza and his war veteran friends will go all out to rig those elections to make sure that Chiwenga is president. I repeat, we want to end this Zanu PF dictatorship. Swapping one dictator with another is not going to change anything. Indeed, if Chiwenga was to get into power, we can all be certain of one thing. You too would want to rule for probably the 2 terms. Even another year of this corrupt, incompetent Zanu PF dictatorship is unthinkable. Another 5 years beyond 2028 is unbelievable. And to make it 10 years, I think we should clearly define what's wrong with the Zimbabwe's political system. The Zanu PF de facto one-party state has failed the nation. We want a healthy and functioning democracy in which every Zimbabwean have a meaningful say in the governance of the country, where the mandate to govern the country is derived from one source and one source only: winning the majority vote in a free, fair, and credible election. We must not compromise on that. Thank you very much. Have a good night.